What are we doing, YouTube? I'm sure you guys all know the drill right now. It's a game coming back with some of my collection. I'm trying to post a video a day for the next year. That's my challenge, that's my goal. Just to show off pieces of my collection. And I'm trying to show, obviously, fairly obvious pieces that loads of you know about, but also some of the really obscure stuff that maybe you'd forgotten about or maybe didn't know existed. And hopefully this just makes you go, oh my God, I remember that. I had that as a kid. So if that's the sort of thing you like, then follow and subscribe, and yeah, you'll get a video a day, hopefully. There are a whole bunch of other videos out there, so if you haven't watched those, go and have a watch. So today is about keyrings. When you were a kid, did you love keyrings? I went through a phase of really sort of trying to collect keyrings when I was a kid. This is an absolute sea and a mess of keyrings. Same with badges. I have actually got a fair few badges, and I'll try and show those at some point. Again, apologies for the lighting. The lighting in this room is not overly great, not overly helpful for these type of videos. Maybe I will try and improve that in the future. But I'm going to try and kind of get through this. I'm going to try and get through this sea of mess that is my keyrings that I've kind of pulled out of my obscure box, one of the boxes that was in storage. So so you can see that there is some real weird ones. I mean, they used to do this sort of stuff in the 80s. There's obviously the bristles are missing from the brushes, but that was a toothbrush set. One of the I'd class it as slightly newer. Obviously, this is Jurassic Park. It is a vintage Jurassic Park keyring, but it's certainly newer than a lot of the other keyrings that are on this bunch. God knows what that was, some sort of foam keyring. That was for Stansfield 8 New Street. Please return to. Somewhere in York. So it's some sort of keys that would have been on some property in York. Maybe I've got that from a family member or something. God knows, who knows. There is a dolphin. There is a koala. That I think did contain screwdrivers at some point. There's a Mickey Mouse on there, vintage Mickey Mouse. We've got a vintage skeleton who sadly is missing limbs. We've got, I think that was meant to be Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio. We've got some little Cadbury's Dairy Milk and some other bits. I think that one was a puzzle which made a square, and obviously all the bits have just vanished. We've got that one, which is quite heavy actually. That one's like I think it's meant to be a fire hydrant or something. Policeman. What else have we got in here? Another foam one. So yeah, we've got that. We've got the snooker balls. Pretty cool. We've got a Donald under there. I don't know if you can see Donald. And there's this metal hammer and a metal lion. We've got a gun at the back. What kid doesn't love a gun? And we've got another gun, another pink one, and a random cow. And then these are two of my absolutely beloveds. So this is Master of the Universe. This is He-Man and Skeletor. Bearing in mind they've probably been in this bunch, I would say, for at least 40 years. So we've got this one. This is the Marsden Hotel in Blackpool. So if you run the Marsden Hotel, there you go. There's a bit of history for you on that one. We have got a coin. Again, 25 pesetas. Probably I've been on holiday, and that was it. We've got an axe. Now, if you take this out, this is actually fairly sharp, to be fair, if you take it out of the sheath. Definitely probably not something that they would get away with selling to kids these days. But again, just loved that sort of obscureness when I was a kid. Little footballer. We got a Coke bottle. This was for a TV. A TV, not a channel, but I don't know what they call, a broadcast company maybe in the UK. We've got a little Crunchy at the bottom here. And we've got a skull and crossbones. So there's some real random stuff. And then we've got this guy. Now I remember this guy vividly. Let me just spin this around so you can kind of see. So this is King Kong, and you can see his fists are missing. Now this used to really tickle me as a kid. His fists actually go on there. Luckily I've still got it. And he's holding this woman, but she's completely naked. And I remember probably, you know, God knows how old I would have been at this point. I wasn't very old. But that used to really tickle me. I used to find it really funny, the fact that she was completely naked. Yeah, so Funny how little things like that stick in your memory. Luckily I do still have the hands, they probably need sticking back on at some point. And then there's also a random burger which has snapped off, but it was part of this sea of nostalgic mess. This just lives in my again, lives in my storage box. It maybe again one day when I've got some more space and things, there will be a display for badges and key rings and whatnot, but for now it lives in the box. I do love getting them out every now and then, because like everybody, when you look at things that you kind of forgot you had, but you've still got, it just gives you a really nice feeling. You kind of think, oh yeah, I remember that, or you know, it triggers things for me about, I remember where I got them or where I was at the time, what I was doing. A lot of these would have been sort of things when I was on holiday, or you know, when I was out and about. I certainly remember when I was a kid sometimes getting pocket money, and then I would maybe buy a key ring and some sweets. And for those of you in America, that's candy. So yeah, just love it. So there's a big old mess there of key rings. Have you guys got key rings? If you have, chuck them in the comments. Show me. I'd love to know. I'd love to see some vintage key rings. You know, especially ones that I may have seen when I was a child. And yeah, if you've seen some of these as a child, fire me a message. Love to hear about it. All right, so there we go. Another video for today, and thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.